James Brolin had seen many actresses in his long and successful career, but something was different when he saw Barbra Streisand in the movie Nuts. He wasn't just watching another performance. He felt something strong and deep inside his heart. Her acting touched something real in him. He had never felt that way before from a film. She was not just playing a role. She was showing raw emotion, strength, pain, and beauty. He said in later interviews that it was in that moment he realized he wanted her not in a shallow or temporary way, but in a way that made him want to know her, love her, and be close to her forever. At that time, James Brolin was already a known actor. He had experienced fame, relationships, and the many ups and downs of life. He had been through love before. He had faced heartbreak. He had seen how things can go wrong even when you try your best. But when he saw Nuts, it was like someone opened a door inside him that had been closed for a long time. It made him believe that maybe, just maybe, love could happen again. He saw Barbra on that screen and thought, I want to know this woman. That was the beginning of something real. Barbra Streisand was also no stranger to love and heartbreak. She was one of the most famous and talented women in the world, known for her powerful singing voice, her brilliant acting, and her confidence. But deep down, she was also a woman who had gone through pain, rejection, and fear. Fame doesn't protect a person from sadness. In fact, sometimes it makes it worse. Barbra had her guard up. She had learned to protect herself. She didn't trust easily. So when James finally met her in person, it wasn't love at first sight for both of them. It was a slow build, something that grew naturally. They met in 1996 at a dinner party. A mutual friend introduced them. When Barbra first saw James, she said something very honest. She told him that his hair looked terrible. Most men would have been shocked or hurt by such a comment, but James wasn't. He laughed. He found her honesty refreshing. He liked that she didn't pretend. She spoke her mind, and that showed him she was real. That first conversation broke the ice. It made both of them comfortable. It showed them they could be themselves around each other. From there, they started spending more time together. They talked, laughed, and shared stories. James was not the kind of man who tried to show off or act cool. He was calm, gentle, and honest. Barbra noticed that right away. She started to relax. She started to trust. For someone like her, trust did not come easily. But James gave her space. He didn't push her. He simply listened and stayed by her side. That was something she needed. As their connection grew, they discovered how much they had in common. Both of them were older and had experienced life. They weren't looking for a perfect fairy tale. They wanted something real. They wanted a partner they could talk to, laugh with, and rely on. And that's what they became for each other. They built something strong and healthy, something based on respect, not drama. They spent quiet evenings together, made dinner at home, walked in the garden, and watched movies side by side. These simple moments meant more than any red carpet event or public show of affection. They found joy in everyday life. They shared a sense of humor. They teased each other playfully. They supported each other's dreams. In 1998, they got married. It was a beautiful and simple wedding, filled with people who truly cared about them. There were no big media shows or headlines. It was a day filled with love and promises. They looked into each other's eyes and said, I do, and from that moment on, they chose to walk through life together. Their marriage was not always perfect, because no marriage is. They faced challenges like any couple. They had disagreements and hard days. But they always came back to each other. They learned how to talk things through. They gave each other space when needed. They forgave. They grew together instead of apart. James has often said in interviews that Barbra brought peace into his life. She made him feel grounded. She inspired him. She made him want to be the best version of himself. And Barbra has said the same about him. She once said James gave her a sense of safety she had never known before. With him, she could finally relax. She didn't have to be Barbra Streisand, the superstar. She could just be Barbra, the woman. Their love grew stronger with time. Every year that passed, they found new ways to care for each other. They took trips, planted flowers, built projects, and supported each other's work. They didn't just live together, they created a life together. James admired Barbra's strength. She had survived so much in her life. He knew she had faced criticism, rejection, and loneliness. But she had kept going. She had kept dreaming. And he loved her for that. He saw not just a star but a survivor. He saw a woman who had fought hard and stayed kind. That touched him deeply. Barbra, too, admired James for his kindness. He was not a man who yelled or made demands. He was gentle. He listened. He made her laugh when she felt anxious. He reminded her to breathe when things felt too heavy. He made her feel like she wasn't alone anymore. And that mattered more than anything. Their love story is not about two perfect people. It's about two people who chose each other, again and again. It's about second chances. It's about being brave enough to love after heartbreak. It's about seeing someone fully and loving them anyway. Barbra often says that James helped her believe in love again. And James says that seeing Nuts was the moment that changed his whole world. From that film came a feeling, and from that feeling came a journey, and from that journey came a love that would last a lifetime. After their marriage, life did not slow down for either of them. James continued acting, while Barbra worked on music, movies, and directing. But no matter how busy their lives got, they always made time for each other. They would make sure to sit down and eat dinner together whenever possible. Sometimes it was just a quiet evening, the two of them sharing stories from the day or laughing about something simple. They knew that these small moments were the ones that really mattered. Barbra said that James had a calming effect on her. In her life, she had often felt pressure to perform, to be perfect, and to meet the expectations of millions. But with James, she didn't have to do any of that. He accepted her just as she was. She could be silly. She could be quiet. She could cry. She could laugh loudly. She didn't have to act. And for her, that was one of the greatest gifts anyone had ever given her. James also said that being with Barbra opened his eyes. She was strong, independent, and deeply caring. She had her own way of doing things, and she wasn't afraid to speak up. Sometimes she would get nervous before a performance, even after all those years. James would hold her hand, remind her how brilliant she was, and tell her everything would be fine. And when the performance was over, and she came backstage full of energy and relief, he would smile and say, "I told you so." They never stopped supporting each other's passions. When James had new projects, Barbra would ask him questions and give feedback. When Barbra was working on an album, James would sit and listen to every note. They shared not just a home but their dreams. They respected each other's work and truly believed in each other's talents. They also found joy in nature. Their home had a beautiful garden, and they spent hours planting flowers, watching birds, and enjoying the sunlight. It was a peaceful life, one they both had longed for. Fame had given them success, but love had given them peace. That's what they cherished the most. Even during hard times, when one of them got sick or when life threw challenges their way, they leaned on each other. James once said that the true test of love is not how you treat each other during the good times, but how you behave when things get tough. And they passed that test again and again. They celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays in meaningful ways. Sometimes they went on trips, and other times they stayed at home with close friends and family. But no matter where they were, the love between them was always clear. They looked into each other's eyes with understanding. They knew what the other was thinking. They didn't need fancy words. Their bond spoke louder than anything else. Barbra has said that James made her feel young again. She said he reminded her how to laugh, how to take things lightly, and how to be in the moment. James, on the other hand, said that Barbra helped him grow. She made him think more deeply. She taught him how to be more open, more expressive, and more loving. They often talked about growing old together. Not in a sad way, but in a happy one. They imagined sitting on the porch, holding hands, and watching the sunset. They knew that time would pass, but love would stay. That gave them comfort. That gave them strength. Their friends often said that being around them felt warm and welcoming. They didn't act like stars. They acted like two people who were grateful to have found each other. They would cook meals for guests, tell funny stories, and make everyone feel at home. People felt lucky to witness such true and lasting love. Barbra once said, "It's never too late to fall in love." And James said, "Sometimes love finds you when you least expect it." Their story was proof of both. They didn't meet in their 20s or 30s. They met later in life, after they had already lived so much. But that's what made it even more special. They appreciated it more. They didn't take it for granted. They often spoke about the importance of listening. In a relationship, listening is just as important as talking. They didn't interrupt each other. They gave each other space to speak. They respected each other's opinions. Even if they didn't agree on everything, they never made the other feel small or unheard. That respect kept their relationship strong. They also made each other laugh every day. James had a great sense of humor, and Barbra loved to giggle. They would joke about silly things, do impressions, or tell old stories in funny ways. Laughter became a part of their daily life. It helped them through difficult days. It made their bond even stronger. Sometimes, they would look back at how it all began with a movie called Nuts. James said he never imagined that a film would lead him to the love of his life. He said he felt lucky every day that he watched that movie. It was like fate had tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Pay attention." Barbra said she never expected to meet someone like James. She wasn't even looking for love. But something about him felt different. She felt safe, understood, and truly seen. And that changed everything. Even now, after so many years together, they still say "I love you" every day. They still kiss goodnight. They still hold hands. They still make time to just sit and talk. And they still thank each other for the little things, for the big things, and for choosing each other every day. Their story is not just about love. It's about healing. It's about trusting again. It's about two people who found each other when they were ready, not when the world expected it, but when their hearts were open. They proved that love is not about age. It's not about fame. It's not about being perfect. It's about honesty, kindness, patience, and joy. And most of all, it's about never giving up on the idea that love can still find you. James Brolin and Barbra Streisand found that kind of love. And every day, they live it. Over the years, James and Barbra faced all the things that married couples face: big changes, unexpected challenges, and moments where life doesn't go exactly as planned. But through it all, they held on to each other. One of the things that made their relationship so strong was how they handled problems. They didn't let small things grow into big fights. Instead, they talked things through, even when the conversation was hard. They reminded each other that they were on the same team, not against one another. They both respected each other's individuality. Even though they were husband and wife, they still gave each other room to grow as individuals. James had his own hobbies and passions. Barbra had her own goals and creative projects. They didn't feel the need to control one another. Instead, they cheered each other on. When James was directing, Barbra was his biggest fan. When Barbra was writing or performing, James supported her every step of the way. One of the things they loved most was traveling together. Whether it was a weekend road trip or a quiet vacation far away from cameras, they found joy in exploring new places side by side. Barbra once said that seeing the world with James made her feel more alive. She felt like every journey, no matter how small, became an adventure when she was with him. James also loved how curious Barbra was. She wanted to learn about everything: history, art, politics, science. She asked questions and listened deeply. He admired her intelligence and how passionate she was about making the world a better place. She didn't just care about fame, she cared about doing something meaningful. That made him love her even more. They spent a lot of time building a beautiful home together. Their house wasn't just fancy, it was full of memories, warmth, and love. They had rooms filled with music, books, and photos from their life together. In their garden, they planted trees and flowers with their own hands. That garden became a peaceful escape where they would walk and talk for hours. Holidays were always special in their home. They didn't need a big crowd to celebrate. Sometimes it was just the two of them, lighting candles, cooking their favorite dishes, and sharing stories from their past. These quiet traditions meant more than any big party or public event. It was about togetherness, about showing love through simple acts of care. As time passed, their love matured. It became softer, deeper, and even more powerful. They began to understand the beauty of silence, of sitting side by side without needing to say a word. They had a connection that didn't always need words. A glance, a smile, a touch on the hand that was enough to say I'm here or I love you. They also supported each other emotionally during hard moments. If one of them lost a friend or felt overwhelmed, the other would be there to hold them. No advice. No fixing. Just presence. Just love. That's what makes a marriage strong, not just the good days, but being there during the sad ones. James often said that Barbra's strength inspired him. She had been through so much in her life but never gave up. She faced criticism, pressure, and stress, but she kept going. She kept singing. She kept telling stories. And she kept fighting for what she believed in. James admired her bravery. He said she had the heart of a lion and the soul of an artist. Barbra, in return, often praised James's calm and steady energy. She said that even on the worst days, he could make her laugh. He never let problems take over. He had a way of seeing the bigger picture. He reminded her of what truly mattered: love, family, kindness, and staying true to yourself. They spent many evenings reflecting on life. Sitting by the fire, sipping tea, they would talk about everything from childhood memories to future dreams. They weren't afraid to be honest, even about fears or regrets. Their love was built on truth. They could share anything without fear of judgment. Even with all their success, they stayed humble. They didn't act like stars at home. They washed dishes, folded laundry, and argued over what movie to watch, just like any other couple. But they always returned to laughter and love. James Brolin once said that falling in love with Barbra wasn't a decision, it was something that just happened. Like his heart had been waiting for her all along. And Barbra said that loving James gave her a sense of freedom. She could finally be herself, without walls or masks. They never let the world outside affect their home life. No matter what the media said, they protected each other's peace. They didn't seek attention. They just wanted to live a quiet, joyful life. They created their own little world, one filled with music, laughter, care, and quiet evenings. Years went by, and their love only grew. As they entered new stages of life, they faced changes with grace. They supported each other through health issues, changes in work, and aging. But none of it took away from their bond. If anything, it made them stronger. Barbra often says that James gave her a second chance at love. And James says that loving Barbra taught him the meaning of real partnership. They are still grateful for each other, even after all these years. Every morning, they say good morning with a kiss. Every night, they say I love you before sleep. These little acts keep their love alive. Their story is a reminder that love doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. It has to be kind. And it has to be chosen, every single day. James and Barbra also used their relationship to do good in the world. They gave back to causes they cared about. Barbra, who had always been passionate about social justice, healthcare, and women's rights, found in James a partner who supported her completely. He didn't try to control her work or pull her away from her mission. Instead, he joined her in it. They worked together on charity events, raised money for important causes, and used their voices to bring attention to issues that mattered to them both. Barbra started a foundation that supports education, equality, and health research, especially heart disease in women. James was always by her side at events and fundraisers. He knew how much it meant to her, and he was proud of her for standing up for others. He admired her courage and her ability to lead with both her head and her heart. James also had his own goals and beliefs. He had worked hard all his life, both in front of the camera and behind it. He had directed films and starred in television shows, and Barbra always supported his projects. They didn't compete with each other, they lifted each other up. That balance was part of what made their marriage so solid. They also supported their children. Both James and Barbra had children from previous relationships. Blending their families wasn't always easy, but they handled it with love and patience. They didn't rush the process. They allowed everyone to adjust in their own time. Over the years, their family grew closer, and James became a loving stepfather. He always made sure that Barbara's son felt respected and cared for. Barbara did the same with James's children. They created a home where everyone could feel included. Holidays became times of laughter and warmth. Barbara and James loved decorating the house, preparing meals, and spending quality time with their family. In interviews, they often talk about how important family is to them. No matter how busy life gets, they make sure to check in with their kids and grandkids. They believe that love should start at home. That's where they found their strength. They also took time to enjoy quiet hobbies. James loved working with his hands. He enjoyed building things, fixing things, and working in the yard. Barbara loved reading, writing, and organizing beautiful spaces in their home. Sometimes, they would sit together in silence, one reading a book and the other building something in the garden. It didn't matter what they were doing. What mattered was being together. They weren't afraid of growing old. In fact, they welcomed it. They said that aging together was a gift. Every wrinkle told a story. Every gray hair was a memory. They felt lucky to have someone to share that with. Not everyone gets to grow old with the person they love. They never took it for granted. They also loved to celebrate milestones. Their 20th wedding anniversary was a private moment between the two of them. They looked through old photos, danced to their favorite song, and held each other close. It wasn't about flashy gifts. It was about remembering how far they had come. Barbara once wrote James a letter just to say thank you. She thanked him for being there, for being steady, and for never making her feel alone. James read the letter with tears in his eyes. He later said that letter meant more than any award or title. It came from the heart of the woman he loved. James also surprised Barbara sometimes with small gifts, flowers from the garden, a song he thought she'd like, or a handwritten note. These small acts of love kept their relationship fresh. They never stopped trying to make each other feel special. They also took care of their health together. They encouraged each other to eat well, exercise, and stay active. They believed that taking care of the body was also a way of showing love. On mornings when one of them felt tired or down, the other would offer encouragement. They became each other's coach, cheerleader, and caretaker. Even with all the love they had, they didn't pretend that life was perfect. They had their arguments. They had their tough days. But what made them different was how they handled those moments. They didn't walk away. They didn't use cruel words. They waited, they listened, and they forgave. They believed that love means working through the mess, not avoiding it. Barbara once said that being with James made her believe in miracles. Not the big, magical kind, but the quiet kind, the miracle of being seen, heard, and loved completely. James said that being with Barbara was like finding a light he didn't know he needed. She brightened his life. She gave it meaning. They were each other's home. No matter where they went in the world, whether it was a concert tour, a film set, or a family visit, they always looked forward to returning to their shared space. A place filled with warmth, music, laughter, and memories. Their love became a powerful message to others. People who had given up on love looked at Barbara and James and saw hope. They saw that it's never too late. They saw that real love isn't about age or timing, it's about connection, effort, and choice. As the years passed and their love matured, James and Barbara never stopped learning about each other. Even after decades together, they still discovered new things, little habits, past memories, and dreams they hadn't shared before. They believed that part of staying in love is staying curious. They asked each other questions, listened with care, and never assumed they already knew everything. Every day brought something new to appreciate in one another. They also became more reflective about their life journey. Sometimes they would sit on the porch in the evening, watching the sunset, and talk about where life had taken them. Barbara would look at James and say how grateful she was that fate brought them together. James would smile, hold her hand, and say he still couldn't believe he ended up with the girl he saw in Nuts. It felt like something out of a movie. Only this time, the ending was real. They talked about the past, not just the good memories but also the mistakes and the pain. They shared their regrets honestly. But they also reminded each other that all of those moments, even the difficult ones, brought them here. Without the heartbreaks, they may never have been ready for the kind of love they found with each other. Their journey wasn't perfect, but it was real. They also had dreams for the future. Even in their 70s and 80s, they talked about new adventures, new music, new roles, new places to visit, and new ways to give back. They never let age stop them from dreaming. They didn't see themselves as old, they saw themselves as lucky. Lucky to still be alive, still be creative, and still be in love. James often said that Barbra brought out the best in him. He became more thoughtful, more expressive, and more grounded. Barbra said that James helped her feel safe and loved, in a way she had never known before. He wasn't just her husband, he was her best friend, her teammate, and her peace. They also supported each other during loss. When one of them lost a close friend or went through a tough period, the other was there with open arms. They didn't always try to fix things. Sometimes they just sat quietly together, knowing that presence was more powerful than any words. That kind of emotional support created a deep bond that no fame or money could replace. The media sometimes asked how they kept their relationship so strong. Barbra would smile and say, "We're not perfect. We're just honest. And we love each other." James would say, "We work at it every day. We don't stop showing up." They believed love wasn't about being lucky, it was about being willing. Willing to listen. Willing to forgive. Willing to grow. They also enjoyed looking back at their journey together. Watching old home videos, looking at pictures, or listening to songs they had danced to in their kitchen. These memories became little treasures they carried with them. A reminder of the love they had built, one day at a time. And through it all, they kept laughing. Laughter never left their home. It was in the way James teased Barbra about being a perfectionist. It was in the way Barbra made faces when James told old jokes. It was in their inside jokes, the ones only they understood. That laughter kept their hearts light, even when life felt heavy. Their home became a place of peace not just for them but for everyone who entered. Friends said you could feel the love in every room. It was in the soft music playing, the fresh flowers, the warmth of their welcome, and the way they looked at each other like no one else in the world existed. Barbra sometimes wrote in her journals about how much she had grown. She had learned to trust, to open up, and to let someone take care of her without fear. James had shown her that love doesn't have to be loud or flashy. It can be gentle, strong, and steady. James said that before Barbra, he never truly understood what it meant to be seen. She saw him not as a celebrity, but as a man with hopes, fears, and a soft heart. And that changed him forever. They didn't try to change each other. They accepted each other completely. The flaws, the quirks, the habits, they embraced it all. They didn't expect perfection. They just wanted honesty, respect, and love. And that's exactly what they gave each other. As they entered their later years, they made peace with time. They didn't fear aging. They saw it as another chapter in their love story. They focused on their health, stayed active, and continued to share dreams. They woke up each morning with gratitude and went to bed each night with love. They were each other's mirror. When one of them forgot who they were, the other reminded them. When one felt weak, the other stood strong. When one was tired, the other offered rest. That kind of love is rare. It's built slowly, quietly, and with care. Even in quiet moments, sitting by the fire, listening to the rain, or walking in the garden, they felt connected. They didn't need noise or distraction. Their love was enough. Just being near each other was enough. And so, James Brolin and Barbra Streisand became more than just a Hollywood couple. They became a symbol of real, lasting love. Love that's patient, forgiving, joyful, and true. Their story touched millions because it reminded people that love is always possible. Even after heartbreak. Even after loss. Even when you least expect it. James still says that watching Nuts was one of the best moments of his life. Because that moment gave him Barbra. And Barbra says that opening her heart to James was the bravest and best thing she ever did. They chose each other once, and they never stopped choosing each other. Their love is a beautiful, living thing, quiet but powerful, private but inspiring. And even now, their story continues. Because true love doesn't have an ending. It only grows deeper with time. And somewhere, right now, James and Barbra are sitting side by side, holding hands, grateful for every single moment.